Not yet. Hello and welcome to Cockatoos with Cecil. And hello everybody who's here as well as those who are coming later. Hello.
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 Sugar, you can say hello. Say hello. You don't say
I
hello
just
yet.
realised I don't even know what today's topic is, but I guess it doesn't matter because I'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, it's about clickers. And I saw a video recently, somebody sent me one of a trainer that was using a clicker with a parrot. And both of my the training courses I took abstained from using clickers. Um, there's good reasons why you shouldn't use a clicker, so we'll go through all that. But
I can imagine a few off the top of my head.
yeah, yeah. Is there an African gray out there? Let's say, yay, raise your wing.
Well,
But
we've
there's
got a
other.
few chatters already here. So we've got Book Shah and Jocelyn, Triggle, and Falcon Sue. So hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Falcon Sue. Hi, Buktiarsha.
And Book says that Cecil and Sugar, KK, and Jasmine are all beautiful. So you guys, you've been complimented. Your fan club has officially arrived.
Yeah, they are beautiful. Are you beautiful? He said, no, I'm a handsome bird.
Hmm.
Are
So
you a
handsome
handsome bird?
Cecil.
Handsome Cecil. He's not having a great time lately. He wants to be a daddy is what it comes down to, and he's just having a problem.
Hmm.
I had
Oh,
to
Cecil.
took the paper out of his cage, but he is still going to that corner and pretending like there's paper there. I gave him some toys he can tear up. He tears them up and puts them in that corner. He's definitely in the nesting mood.
Cecil, you should adopt Manda. He needs a daddy.
He does. He does need a
He
needs a
needs a
daddy.
father figure.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to StreamYard, but I can't use the other earbuds I have, and I sound like a robot when I'm talking to myself with these. But I guess the sound comes out okay. I just can't hear myself properly.
Hmm.
That's okay. I'm just ignoring what I hear in my ears and just
Hmm.
talking. So
Well, you sound okay from this end.
yeah, it's just you wouldn't believe like what it sounds like in my ears. It sounds like I'm talking through tin cans or something. Kind of sounds like that, but
Well, thank you for your contribution, dear.
hmm, bright and lively voice. Yeah, we're going to talk about clickers, but the, there's a book by Karen Pryor about clickers. And if you just go through the book and do what she says and don't use a clicker, you're fine. You don't need a clicker. So you don't need a clicker with a dog either. You know, not with a dog or any other animal you're training. Dr. Friedman, no, she said no, don't use them for any animal. Um, and Dr. Zeligs, no, don't use a clicker. Then they give good reasons, so I'll go. If you have a clicker, I'll even explain how you can stop using it because there's a technique for that too. That's easy actually, just to replace it. What are you doing up there? He bonked me in the ear with that thing and drove my earbud into my ear earlier. But I brought this toy out for him, so I'm glad he chose it. I brought a bunch of different little toys for him to play with, and he chose that one. He likes those. He destroys them pretty quickly, but he likes them. That's getting hard to get. A company that I usually buy those toys from, they didn't have them last time, and that's one of his favorites. Yeah, you can do that if you want, if you really want to. Let's see who else we have in here. Let me try. Let me go through the process of switching the camera. It's all so much fun. Yeah, it's actually, you have to touch the screen 5 times just to change the camera and get back to your main screen. We have Sugar, the Sugar Bird. Sugar
What a
Bird.
beauty.
She's on slightly higher dose of medicine now. At some point, she'll be sitting where I can show you. There's a covert right next to her, between her primary and secondaries. If you see that covert sticking out, then that means she has to have her dosage increased. So right now, she's too fluffed up. You can't see it. She's being fluffy. And we have sleeping over there, Mr. Snowball. And Lucy and Jasmine. And hold on a second, guys. I forgot to put on my online meeting focus, which I need to do because otherwise we'll get interrupted by phone calls and things like that. Mostly, I've been getting a ton of political phone calls and people asking me to fix our Google presence on the web. Like I care about our presence on the web. It's about the last thing that I care about. So there's Jasmine and Lucy, and Pippa didn't make it. She got in here and then she started going right after Snowball. So
Oh, Pippa.
Poor
and
Pip.
I
Frightened.
and I got in here pretty early. I told her 3 times and kept pushing her away. She just kept going after Snowball. So
She just can't help herself, can she?
yeah, she's just having one of those days.
Mm.
This is the light day. I've worked it out now so that I have one day. I alternate between heavy work and light work, so I have days where I can catch up. So I can get her out. But what happens on one of my heavy work days, she's going to end up missing coming out that day. So unless I can find, like if I got some work in the kitchen, I can bring her in with me. Oh, and Cause has got something new now too. Um, when I give them their treats at night, I just load everything on the cart and then I add whatever treats they need in their bowl. It's different for each one of them. So she sits on my shoulder when I do that. The only one that gets really upset about that is Pippa. She doesn't like Cause sitting on my shoulder, but and there's a
Well,
real. We have an appointment set up for her to get some further blood work, but I don't think she needs it. Uh, Last night she was 432 grams.
oh, she's gaining weight.
Well, yeah, she's always set right at about 424. I mean, almost exactly every time you weigh her, because I weigh them about the same time of day. She's at 424. She takes it to four, and then her low weights are 418.
Oh,
So that's in the morning before she has her food. So I think she's fine. I've got to take some pictures of her dropping and analyze those, but it doesn't look like she needs to go to the vet. But that's 2 weeks away anyway, so
Well, in the meantime, we got some chatters who joined. We have Calvin Thurston and Rosebud Atkins. Hello, both.
hello. Hello, Rosebud. Hello, Calvin. So we're going to talk about clickers today. Clickers, which are an unneeded device. So, and I'm sure that most people could know one reason they're not needed, or they won't be useful. But if you're doing any kind of training of birds, and there's other birds out there, this is one of the things. I'll tell you what made me think of the topic is that I saw a video. Excuse me. I saw a video where a friend sent me that someone who was training a hyacinth macaw using a clicker, and I said that I wrote back and said, well, they're doing a great job of training, but they don't need the clicker. And then I mentioned that Dr. Friedman and Dr. Zellings have reasons not to use them for any animal. And she said, well, the bird's in a room by itself. Well, that's true. But if one of the birds picks up the clicker sound, and you have more than one bird, right? But one bird picks it up, you put the bird back in there, and it hears that clicker all day coming from the African gray in the room, or even a cockatoo could be doing that. That breaks the training. That clicker just becomes a sound, right? It's a sound that doesn't actually signify anything. So that's one reason why you don't want to use a clicker. Another reason is that a clicker has one sound, okay? So, that click click sound, well, you could hit it multiple times. I mean, you can do that if you want, but where you can modulate your voice. So, one thing that people who do training may not use in ABA that is important is the intermediate. Nope, do that to my face, you silly. I'm trying to get one of these earbuds slightly out of my ears so I can hear myself a little bit. An intermediate bridge, okay? If you're training a bird to do something, I'm trying to think. A good example would be, okay, let's say you're working out, right? You're in the gym, and you're trying to press that barbell. You're trying to get that whatever it is, how you're just trying to push it up, and you're not quite there yet. So what does your assistant do? Your spotter. They'll say, "Good, good, keep going, good, good, good." And then once you get done, they go, "Good, good." They say it really loud, or they say "great," or they use something else to indicate that you've done something great. But while you're almost there, they're letting you know that, and that's what an intermediate bridge is. So I will say to a bird while I'm training it, if I've got a few steps to the training, I say good, good, to let them know that they're going to get a reward. And then when they finally do it, I say good, good bird. So you can't do that with a clicker.
And you hear that quite a lot, because unless you're doing something extremely simple, then they're not going to do the thing you want straight away in one go, are they?
Nope. That's why you let them know they're on the right track. And when you're training people to do bird training, one of the things you do is, you have one person who's the bird, and everybody gets together and the people in the room decide what they're going to get this bird to do. And then you have the trainer, and then the trainer is going to say good or whatever, and until that person does what everybody decided they're going to do. And all you can do is, good. Or, sometimes it would be snap the fingers or whatever, but you just say good. If they're moving in the right direction, if their body, and the only rule is the person has to move some, okay? So they move around a little bit, they sway, and then when they get in the right direction, good, good, like that kind of thing. So you're doing intermediate. This is intermediate bridging. And a bridge is simply something that to let the animal you're working with know that they're on the right track. It's like the teacher walking through the classroom, looking at the essays that the kids are writing, and looks down and goes, oh, good, good. Doesn't say great, pat them on the head and give them an A right there. That's what an intermediate is, just letting the animal know that they're on the right track. They don't have to guess, right? Expect them to guess that they're on the right track? No. So, but you can't do it with a clicker. Now, I've heard people say, well, you can just click multiple times. And yes, my answer is so can an African gray. Um,
Click, 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 click.
yeah. Now, here's the other thing. A lot of the training I do, like for veterinary, I get them to lift their wings and to be able to lift them one at a time or two at a time. Okay, do that with a clicker. What are you going to do? Move the clicker around in your hand? You're going to stick it in your pocket? What are you going to do? And then when they get it right, if it's in your pocket, how are you going to click it? So you are basically taking one of your hands out of the um, situation, so you can't use it. Or
And
if you do, go ahead.
also if you're reliant on it, then what if you lose the clicker? Then you don't have it.
That's another point I was going to bring up. Yeah, that's
Oh,
excellent.
sorry.
Yeah, no, no, no. I don't need to bring it up. That's the point. What if you lose it? Um, you don't want to rely on objects. I mean, I watched Dr. Zelig train a sea lion. This is the way, not the way you usually do it, but she trained a sea lion to make circles, to go around in a circle, um, by just using hand cues and verbal. That's it. That's not the way you normally do it, but she was pointing out you can do that. You scan for when they're moving in the right direction. You give, you make the hand signal, that the turnaround hand signal. This kind of signal, right? You make the turnaround signal, and then as they move in that direction, whenever they turn just slightly that way, you just good. They move, they get a little further, good until so. And again, she's using her hands for that. But if you've got a clicker, what are you going to have the clicker in one hand and you're going to be spinning the other? It's just something you don't need. It got to be a thing. I think when Karen Pryor came out with her book, it got to be a thing using the clicker. But everything in the book is true. Just take the clicker away. And that book doesn't talk about intermediate bridging. So that's something that quite frequently people in ABA don't mention. ABA was designed for kids who are autistic. And if you think you're going to get an autistic child to do something without intermediate bridging, you probably are, living on a different planet, because if you've seen the movie Rain Man, you know how that goes. And these guys, because they're raised in captivity in incubators and handled by humans instead of their own species, they're basically functionally autistic. I know I'll have all the people out there that know autistic go, that's not autistic. No, I said functionally autistic. They act as if they're autistic. It's not genetic, okay? So,
I think with the clicker, I think it came about with dogs and things like that, where they're just so used to ignoring the human talking, because a lot of people they just talk to their dog all the time. They're just like blah 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 blah. So they tune out the sound of your voice. So they had to have a distinctive sound that the dog would understand. Okay, that's the sound. But with the
yeah.
parrot, because they're kind of tuned into your voice anyway, you don't need that as well.
Well, it's true. What you're saying is true. But as a part of that, if you just sent those people who were going to animals, train dogs, sent them to acting school for, at least one semester, they learn how to use their voices differently. When I talk to these guys, I don't want to do it right now, but I have a certain tone of voice I use when I want their attention. And if I were just talking like this, it won't do it. And you can use the same thing with dogs, because most dog trainers don't use a clicker. Most professional dog trainers. And I know there's somebody on here right now who's listening who knows that's true. It's not necessary to use a clicker with a dog. It's just like
Oh
anything
yeah,
else.
yeah. No, I
It's the
agree. It's just a lot of people, who aren't experts. They've just lost control completely. So it's
well,
it's a thing they can use.
it's a good hook to get people to buy a book as well. It's a hook. Oh, this little thing in my hand is going to make all the difference in the world. No, it really doesn't. But when you're dealing with a dog, you don't go roll over. Oh, hi there, Fred. Roll over. You say roll over. You enunciate it. You make it stronger, right? I'm using that because the birds aren't going to react to me saying roll over. They may wonder why I'm using that tone of voice, but so it's a matter of tone of voice, the way you talk. You can blah, 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 like I'm doing right now, and they don't pay any attention. But as soon as I change that tone of voice, and it's the same with a dog, especially if you apply their name to it, right? So if I say a bird's name and then I make some other sound, I can also do it the other way. They're pretty smart. But with a dog, I would tend to call the name and then give the cue. So not a command, it's a cue. So with these guys, I mean, if I were to say, Ralph, wake up, I'm not going to get any response. There's no Ralph in here. But that's the tone of voice. Okay, so they'll listen if they hear that tone of voice, but they won't react if it's not for them. Sometimes with birds, they're pretty smart. They'll be doing something you don't want them to do. You're looking at them and you're telling, using that tone of voice. The other birds may look at you because you didn't give them an indication of who you were talking to, but they won't react much because they see you focused on one of the other birds, like I was with Pippa earlier. I'm telling her no, and she's going anyway, and she's ignoring me. Right? Stop whacking my earpiece, Cecil. You big monster. That's my earpiece, but whacking it. Quit whacking it. Now there's a tone of voice there too. I don't know if you heard that the subtle shift in the voice, and it got his attention. It may be a quieter voice, but when I'm telling him to not do something, and there's a particular voice I use for it, and he's looking at me because of it. Hi, sweetie. You're not doing anything wrong. It's just irritating if you hit my earpieces. Mm, yep. Poor Cecil. Oh, I'll check my notes here. Is there anything I forgot? That's pretty much.
Maybe you can talk about, seeing as we're not using a clicker, how should the tone of voice be? Because sometimes if you scream or shout at the parrot, they enjoy that. So that can be good or bad.
Yeah, well, I have the sound. I was like, that sound that that will usually stop all the birds in their track if I say it, and they'll look at me. So if you're trying to get something them to immediately stop a behavior, that usually works. What are you going to do with that feather? You have to train them to react to certain sounds so that when you want them to stop, they will. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to. You're not commanding them. You have to get their cooperation. And with the tritons, it's a little harder than with the rest of the birds, but and there are exceptions. It's hard with cause too. If she wants to go after another bird because she's being mate territorial, the only way I can stop her is to grab her. She's not going to listen to me because she's trying to protect me. So, Cecil, you're not okay. You're gonna do that. That means I'm going to change the camera angle. Don't hit my earpiece, you big toad. Cecil. Yeah, vocal tones. I mean, they hear the tones. Dogs do too. Um, if you talk to a dog and you're saying oh, bad dog, bad dog, that kind of thing. I didn't use a tone of voice there for obvious reasons, but when you when you use that tone of voice, the dog will flip over and show its belly, right? It's a combination of the sound of the words plus the tone. The tone is probably the biggest part of it, but the dog will recognize that means that it has to be subservient to the alpha. These guys don't play that game, but there's no alphas, but they do understand a difference in tone, right, Cecil? Right, Cecil? So he's not staring at me now because I'm not telling him to do anything. The tone of voice I have is like this doesn't mean anything in his world. It's just me making sounds. All right, right, Cecil? Right, Cecil? So has anyone used a clicker? I mean, I tried it for a while too, and until I got real training, and then I stopped doing it. But if anyone's tried a clicker, what you're going to do if you've been clicker training, the way to stop it is to start adding good. I usually use good bird, so but you can use good, whatever, good or good bird. When you do the clicker, say that phrase at exactly the same time. And then you do that for a week or two, and then slowly start to use your voice with the clicker, then the next time without, then with the clicker, then without, and then go 1 in 3. Voice, voice, voice clicker, voice, voice, voice clicker, and then go 1 in 4. By that time, you probably associated the bridge with the word, and you won't need the clicker anymore.
So we don't have any questions about the clicker in chat, but Jam and Jamie is here. So hello, Jam and Jamie, and
Hello, Jim.
and she has a question about targeting sticks. So I guess that's a tool that you can use. So she says, what's the best way to get your bird used to training sticks? My bird is terrified of them.
Yeah, I have one of those too. I use it for only a couple of things because you can use your hands instead of the targeting stick. But if you're training a bird to do a full circle, a targeting stick is important. Um, you can use your hand too. I mean, Dr. Zelix doesn't use uh, a targeting a target every time, but she does use targets. So you can take your hand and make the motion you want, go above their head and circle, that kind of thing. So, but the best way to get them used to the stick is to put it in the room, move it closer and closer to the cage, get it when it gets close to the cage, when they're not completely horrified by it, then give treats by that. So you go over, you got it next to the cage, you give the treats next to that until eventually they kind of associate it with reinforcement. So it's just a basic desensitization if you're going to use a targeting stick. And I've got one of the ones that pulls out. It's got the little ball on the end. Those are good for a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with those. You can teach them to open their wings with those, but the same thing, you can teach them to open their wings by just putting your finger up at the top like that. And and it looks like he's doing that, and he hasn't been trained. He just does it automatically. I'm gonna try that on yours and see if it works. So yeah, best thing is just start desensitizing them. You know, get it as get it as close as you can without them getting upset. If they get upset, back it away until it's at a spot where they might look at it occasionally, but they aren't worried about it. You got to desensitize it. Sometimes just changing the color of it. The one I have has a red ball on the end, and that's fine, but it wouldn't have worked for Chloe. Uh, it looks pretty close to the color red she didn't like. So yeah, I learned a lot about desensitization from Dr. Zelix because she works with aquatic animals that can't take and they don't do well under anesthesia. So she has to train them, and sometimes rather quickly in a day or two, to be able to be, strapped down without freaking out, and have operations done on them while they're awake. Obviously they use local anesthetics, but they can't use the general anesthetic because it'll kill them. So these guys are sensitive to that too. That's why they use a gas most of the time with them. So she in her class on animal training 120 cannot talk. Can you give me a new tongue? Did you grab my tongue? Um, Animal training 101. Since she has to deal with animals like that in those situations, um, she emphasizes the desensitization part of ABA. You have to get the animal to accept that. Because if they're freaking out while you're trying to do an operation, that can cause a problem, especially if it's going to be a sensitive operation, one that's you have to have some real technical skill to get it done. So she had great training on desensitization, but basically it just means you're going to move something closer and closer, associate it with something that they like. Or if it's a real problem, if they're just totally freaking out, try one that's a different color. You know, pick something that looks different. You can do that too, right, Cecil? Right, Cecil? Everybody else is just sleeping, so even KK is just, well, I shouldn't say everybody else. Jasmine's been chewing up toys up there, but she's kind of in a place that's hard to put the camera. So I hope that helps. That's moving something closer and closer and watching. One of the things I learned when I was my first classes with Dr. Friedman is that you step close, you watch, the bird shows a reaction. You take a step back until the bird looks calm, and then you try taking a step forward. It's the same with an object. You put the object back here. You put the object a little bit closer, and if they react, you back it off some. You just keep doing that. With some birds, it's going to take longer than others. I have I have to put this video up, but Snowball doesn't like the rattle balls. I mean, he really doesn't like them. So I put one in his cage, and it was like I put a rattlesnake in there or something. He was trying to kill it. I've got a video of that, but that's like I did it one more time to see if he'd calm down. Wasn't quite as upset by it the second time, but I won't be giving him that ball unless he's totally not. If he won't gets into a condition where he's not playing much and just sitting on his perch, I could throw that in there just to get his blood moving. So there are situations where you can use that, but basically he needs to be desensitized before he'll play with it like a regular toy. So Cecil, you're having fun. Hmm? So roughly, just go through it pretty quickly now, the summary. You are disabling one of your hands. Okay, so you only have one hand, which makes it hard to train behaviors that require two hands, like getting their both wings up at the same time. To do that, you kind of need both hands. Um, a good example, Eleanor had said, "What if you lose it?" Yeah, that's another thing, because if that's the only method you have. Now you could lose your voice, but it's less likely, right? I would certainly recommend a person who is mute using something like a clicker. So if you can't actually talk, then the clicker is a great thing. Um, the environment may end up with a whole bunch of clicks in it because a bird might pick up that sound, just like Jasmine picked up Peach's sound when Peaches passed away. Jasmine started making that sound. Um, Bob saw that Romeo got extra treats if he said "I love you," so Bob started saying "I love you." I mean, it was that quick too. All of a sudden, you hear him say "I love you." I mean, he didn't have to work at it. So, and you don't want to learn to rely on outside um, objects. Okay, you want to be able to work with the bird, handle the bird, and train it to do things without that exterior object. You don't want to have to rely on the clicker.
And I was thinking also there's a potential issue with any sound that's easy for them to mimic, because if you have a particularly cheeky bird, then if they do something that they know is naughty, they might then make the click sound and reward themselves for having done something naughty. So then you've completely lost control.
Yeah, that's true. A good example of that is that one African gray that we call the dog. The dog's name was Jetta, and we call the dog in Jetta, Jetta, using the woman's voice, right? Jetta, the dog would come in, and then the bird would go, and it would do this to that dog all day long, just having fun. Call the dog in, laugh. Call the dog in, laugh. Um, it's the same thing if Murray, the African gray that we had, if she had heard a clicker, uh, she would have used it whenever I didn't give her what she wanted. She would have started making that sound if I was trying to train someone in another room. So I saw her do, yeah, I saw her do many things like that. So
Well, she would call you bad names if you didn't do what she wanted.
yeah, well, usually she'd give me a raspberry. You know, she'd go. That was her. That was her way of saying it. Yeah. Sorry, you failed. But she was good at rewarding me too. I did the right thing. She'd go, "That's a good boy." Yeah, and some people think it's just going to be the cockatoos, the cockatoos, the African grays that are going to make those sounds. But cockatoos can do it too. You should hear the repertoire of sounds that Snowball has. I don't hear him talk much, but he chatters at me all the time. I'm working around the house, whatever I'm doing, trying to, make their breakfast or whatever. He's out there going, Snowball, and he makes a bunch of different sounds. Yeah, I said Snowball. I said it. I said Snowball.
And some of the birds, like Snowball and KK, well, they can do a new sound pretty much instantly as well, can't they?
Yeah, yeah, they can. I've watched Snowball and KK do that. Let's switch cameras here. Snowball. Hi, Snowball. Eye opens and he looks around. Yeah, I'm right here, but he knows I'm just saying his name to get his attention. Lucy. There's that. There you are. Hi, Lucy. Sugarbird. Sugarbird.
I have the feeling Sugarbird was doing stuff in the background while you haven't put any attention on her.
Yeah.
Well, no one was looking, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that feather, that's the one right here. That's the one you have to watch. It's the one that comes right between this. This is the one that's been sticking out right there. But it's almost back to its normal position now.
We've got to watch that pig carefully when she's got feathers coming in, haven't we? My
Yeah.
goodness.
If that thing starts sticking out, that means she's trying to tear into her feathers. She's getting not getting enough of the drug.
Sugar, you look so good. Please stay that way.
Yeah, I don't know what set her off. Something did. There's a lot of different cues in the environment, and you don't realize that something has changed. Um, I tried to think back. I mean, the cart's new. I don't think the cart bothers her, but it saves me a lot of time. That donated cart. No, Cecil, get down, down, Cecil. You're getting too wound up. You're getting too wound up. Yeah, I know. I love you too. Let's split out to me. I know. I know. It isn't fair. Took you off my shoulder. Yeah, she's got that one blood feather right there. Probably can't see it. It's too dark. Oh, you want me to pet your beak now? Okay. All right.
Pet that shug shug.
Hmm.
Pet the shug shug. So if anyone has any questions about clickers or targeting or training or the flock, then feel free to type them and we can ask Don. But if not, then we can just hang out and watch the buddies.
I'd like to see what Cecil would do if I handed him a clicker.
Oh, it probably wouldn't last long, would it?
Yeah, that was Cecil. You took that from my hand. You never do that. Are you insulted that I handed you a toy? What in the world has happened to the camera? I tried to hand her a toy and she looked at me like, I want to get my beak pat. Yeah, there's a lot of signals that happen in the environment that you don't realize. Like the lady who told me, oh, I haven't changed anything, but she'd stack some boxes in the corner of the room, took the boxes out, and all of a sudden the behavior, I forget what the behavior was. I think it was screaming. And it stopped. Maybe you get up a little earlier, or you get up a little later, or you're having them spend more time at work and you're coming home a little later. And then all those things can affect the bird. You
And
buy
it's
a new
something,
piece.
can be something
What?
that seems completely innocuous to us, but not to
You
them.
mean what? You mean like a can of Rumford baking powder?
Yep.
Yeah.
Or you wore the wrong t-shirt or something.
Oh yeah. Or you combed your hair a different way, you styled your hair differently. Um, yeah, a good example is when I take off my glasses, I can lose my face around Bob. He doesn't allow me to go around without my glasses. I'm nearly blind anyway, so I try not to do that, but I can't even take them off to clean him if he's in the room. I have to make sure I've covered his head or something. He'll go nuts. I'm not
Oh,
allowed not
Sugar,
to have
you are
a.
the cutest at the moment.
She's such a cute girl.
Look at her. Her whole face fluff is up and about.
Like with her, if you leave the door open while you're trying to take birds out, you better watch because she'll get down on the floor and then head off and climb into her cage. And you'll come back in here for her and she's not here.
Actually, you walk home.
She will. Yeah, she does that. Sweet girl. And other times she doesn't want to come out. And I can't tell why. She doesn't want to step up and go back to her cage. Most of the time she wants to go back to her cage after she's been here for 3 hours. But once in a while, and I don't know what the difference is, she just looks at me like, I'm not leaving. Oh, I'm staying. You too. Are
These
you
two cuddle
standing?
buddies.
Don't stand on him. Okay. No standing on the KK. Yeah, triggers in the environment. You're training a bird, and if it's, I can train them with other birds around, but that takes a little bit of practice because it's easy for them to get, well, it's easy for any of us to get a little distracted with other things going on. So stay out of my pocket. All right, hold on a second, guys. I gotta zip the pocket up. Ah, you guys, stay out of my pocket.
Yeah, I'm trying to train my daughter to eat food, and she gets ever so distracted when her dad's in the room because she wants to watch him rather than eating.
So cute.
I see. So you're such a good bird. Yes, you are a good bird. Having a tough time right now, huh? You're having a tough time. I know. I know. Did you hear the whine? You stopped petting me. You stopped petting me. We give out silent triggers too. Our body position. I learned that when I was taking sign language, American Sign Language. If you're giving a sign like you want to do something, say yes, I want to go to the movies with you. But if your body is not saying that, they know you're lying. So these guys are pretty good at picking up those body signals because that's how they communicate to each other. So don't lie to your bird, as they can tell. They know how to read body language, right, Sugar? She can tell when I'm trying to pet her beak, but it's only half-hearted because I have other birds that are on my lap getting my attention. And then she'll just pull away, like, okay, I'm done. She can tell the difference between that and when my arm is just tired from holding it up in the air, but she won't climb down to let me pet her in the lap. So don't put your foot on her. That's not normal behavior. Mhm. Oh, sugar. Oh, sugar. So when you're not using the clicker, you want to apply that word that you use, like good or good bird, at the moment they're doing what you want. If it's the terminal or the final bridge, where you're using it as a secondary reinforcer, at the moment they're doing what you want. So they're moving along, they're in a behavior, they're getting it right. You're saying good, 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 right? Good. He says, I don't know why he said that. I'm just getting my beak patted. I'm just getting my beak patted. You happy about that? Is that why our feathers are out? Huh? Yeah. Okay, my arm's tired now.
Hi.
She'll let me go a little while resting my arm. But
If such a thing as an automatic beak petter existed, do you think Sugar would use it, or do you think she'd be horribly offended by the whole idea?
I think she'd be horribly offended.
Me too.
She wants the actual social interaction. That's what it's all about. Yeah. Cockatoos are highly social. I mean, well, the Moluccans tend to be a little more standoffish, but they're still highly social. So the umbrellas try to crawl into your skin. The Moluccans, they like to be a little bit distant, but they want the attention anyway. Right, Shug? Right, Sugar? Mm.
And Jam and Jamie just donated $10, so thank you very much, Jam and Jamie.
Oh, thank you so much, baby. See if I can find that now. Since they changed everything, there we go. Thank you so much.
Thank
Can you
you.
s- can you say thank you? She says no, but I can get those feathers on the side of my head out. You can do that. Pretty bird. Oh, you know when
Bird.
it's time. Pretty bird.
It's Pretty Bird O'Clock.
Pretty bird. You want to come over, pretty bird? She won't come over the first time usually, but she's going to today. Hi, pretty bird. Hey, pretty bird. Hello, pretty bird.
Oh. Hi, Lucy.
Pretty bird. Pretty bird, pretty bird. Lovely Lucy, pretty bird. Her eye's been looking a lot better lately. I think there must have been some nerve damage and it's just slowly coming back. It looks like it's normal today.
So Spirit Matter just joined us. Got here late. Oh, we're happy to have you here. So welcome, Spirit.
Hi, Spirit
And
Matter.
Jocelyn says April was live yesterday. Wanted me to say hi to you, Amy and Eleanor. Oh, thanks, Jocelyn.
Oh, that's
I
Thank you,
didn't
Jocelyn.
catch up live, possibly due to the time of day.
mm. But we say hi back and send all our good wishes.
Yep. Hi back.
Exactly. All our love to April and her birds.
I've been looking at some of her cute videos of her birds, but I didn't know there was going to be a live. I'm a little busy, aren't I? Am I a little busy? No. We only have 12 birds to take
Yeah,
care
the
of.
Puffman is a great entertainer.
What's Puffy? Is he a kayik?
I think he is, yeah.
Imagine if we had one of them around the Glowy Sanctuary. That would liven things up.
Oh, geez. Yeah, they're pretty hard to control because they're so small. They fly everywhere. But one of the one of our supporters who happens to be in Europe is going to be adopting a male eclectus that was abused. Um, Actually coming from a vet because the people left it with the vet and said, just put it down.
Oh, that's so sad.
I mean, eclectuses, they're such sweet birds.
Yeah, who could not love an eclectus?
Yeah.
Human beings, yeah, you just don't know what to say about some human beings. They probably got the bird because they like the color, you know. Oh, we like
Mm.
the bright green, you know. It's just instead of really learning about the birds and what they need.
In our
Now they
local
cut.
rescue at the moment, there is an Amazon, and they titled it as likes only men.
uh, You know, it's not true when they say stuff like that. That you could
It is
say,
not. But the problem
yeah,
is there is not such a thing as a specialized parrot rescue. They are all animal or pet rescue, and they just have to take them in if they are basically put in front of the door. And they really do their best, but of course they have not a parrot specialist.
yeah. If you're, it would be true if you have one that doesn't, well, doesn't like to be around women. You can say that, but say or a trained specialist. Because if you're
Mm.
trained in ABA, you can turn that around pretty fast.
Mm.
Pippa got along pretty well with the doctor and her assistant, and they were both women. And you know how Pippa is.
Mm.
Pippa usually goes after their fingers. She didn't do that. I just kept telling her it was okay, and she wasn't too happy with the stethoscope, but it worked out. She didn't try to bite. And that's a bird that used to attack women all the time. In fact, her cage says "eats lady fingers" right on it. So
Good girl, Pippa.
Well done, Pip.
Looks like she overcame her resistance towards female human.
yeah, as long as right now it's as long as I'm telling her it's okay, it seems to work. So, but that's
Mm.
the first step because once you're there, it doesn't take long to generalize it. If I just had a victim, I mean a volunteer, I could fix that in a couple of days. I
Mm.
got plenty of bandages for the person here, so you don't want to go through life without any scars. Come on.
Just have to keep explaining to Pippa that just because Steve Jobs wasn't a woman doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with women.
Yeah.
She probably met earlier women who said that Windows is the best operating system of all time, and that probably
That could explain it.
started it.
Yeah. A woman who just loved Windows Vista.
Oh,
Yeah,
Windows
Windows
Vista.
Vista,
Oh,
followed by the
yeah.
glorious Windows 8.
And then they jump from Windows 8 to Windows 10 because they want to sound like Apple. Or, of course, Apple had
Mhm.
actually gone through those iterations. They hadn't, but uh, although I'm seeing now that Apple, in some ways, is starting to look like Windows. At least the updates. I mean, I sit down at the computer and it says it has an update. What are we doing with another update? We just had an update yesterday. You know? And
Mm.
then I look 2 days later, there's another update. And I'm going, what in the world is going on down there?
Hey,
Well, folks,
Shiggy.
it's that time again.
Looks like Sugar needs her time with Daddy, so we'll have to end the stream, I think.
Mhm.
I
So she.
guess so. Cecil, that's my arm. Thank you. He's shoving my arm. So, well, thanks. Thank you, Amy and Eleanor, for moderating. And thanks, everybody, for being here. Don't forget, we do have merchandise. You can get there from our link tree. And thanks again for the donation today. And we will see you all later.
Bye.
Tschüssi.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
The Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.